Hello everyone, it's Brett here, Lionheart84, and I wanted to feature a couple of pretty rare citrus fruits that I've managed to pick up when I popped out to the shops a couple of days ago. They're only obviously available at certain times of the year, and it would appear only from certain shops. One I've tried before and one I haven't, so I thought I'd cover them both. Now the first one I have tried once before, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and this, as you can see, is called the Alizza fruit. That's Alizza. Now both these fruits came from Marks and Spencer's, who do occasionally feature unusual fruits. Now the Alizza is, I believe, a citrus that was originally bred in Israel. A little bit of a mark there on it, but they didn't have many to choose from. It's kind of the size of a grapefruit. Now, from looking up online, it seems to be a cross between a pomelo and I think a clementine. And when I had it before, it was kind of reminiscent of a grapefruit with an orangey flavour to it. Now there is a little bit of confusion over pomelos and grapefruits, because in large parts of Europe grapefruits are actually known as pomelo or pomelo, and don't seem to have a separate word for what we call pomelos. So I'm not 100% sure whether this is a cross between a grapefruit and a clementine, or what we in the UK would call a pomelo and a clementine. It's a little bit vague, but obviously I'm going to cut it open and let you have a look at it in the second part of the video. They are sweeter than grapefruit, so that they've got a slight grapefruit taste to them, but obviously the sweetness comes from the clementine side. And although you probably can't see here, there's a little bit of a sort of a slight orangey hue to the skin of it. What the flesh looks like on this one remains to be seen. Now, also of interest is this blood orange, which is trademarked as an onyx. Now, if you haven't come across it before, the onyx is actually a sanguinelli blood orange, but it's a sport version of it. It's a version that someone discovered on a sanguinelli tree that has the same sort of typical blood orange flesh, but it has this much darker, a very, very deep red, almost black sort of, well, not black, but certainly a very, very dark red colour to the flesh, much more so than a lot of blood oranges. And they do often have striations on them, as this one has. You can see a much lighter stripe on it, and orange as well. I've not had this one before. I've eaten the Alizza, but I've never had an onyx before. I'm assuming it's going to taste very similar to a regular blood orange, but as I hadn't come across them for sale, and the colour I thought was absolutely stunning, I thought it would interest some of my citrus fans. And I know a few of you are growing blood oranges, but obviously you won't have been able to get your hands probably on a plant of onyx, although you might have sanguinelli. Now I've got a sanguinelli, or it might be sanguinello. Can't be too sure because of the way there is some confusion with sellers between sanguinelli and sanguinello. I think one is a Spanish variety and one's an Italian variety, but this is definitely a natural variation of sanguinelli. So in the second part of the video, I'm obviously going to cut these in half, or try and peel them, see what the rind's like on it, and see what the flavour's like. So hopefully you'll stick with me for the second part of the video. Okay, so welcome back to part 2, and I thought we'd start with this very pretty looking onyx blood orange, sanguinelli, but a special version. So I'm just going to cut it straight down the middle so we can see how much of the coloration there is in the flesh of this. Very pretty. You can see there's a lot more of the red pigments actually in the rind rather than in the actual flesh itself. Now, it's not unusual for blood oranges, but some of them have a very, very red flesh, but quite a pale orange colour to the outside. So it does seem that the pigmentation, which I've temporarily forgotten the name of, can vary on where it's deposited in the fruit. In fact, it's obviously slightly darker in the centre, and then it's got this more lighter orange circle around it. So obviously I could have peeled it like a normal orange, but I thought it'd just be interesting to cut it like this. And whether or not the peel will come off easily, I don't know. Let's just taste it and see. Very juicy, this one. Quite not an intense flavour, quite a mild orangey flavour. I mean, if I closed my eyes, I'm thinking to myself it would probably taste like any other orange. It's not, the red coloration doesn't give any, to my mind, give any distinct flavour to it. It's more about the appearance. They're stunning to look at, and if you do fresh squeezed fruit juice, perhaps not as sweet as I was expecting. Nevertheless, very pleasant, and it is nice to have a blood orange for a change. And the membranes between the segments are very, very thin, so it's not something that you'd have to worry about peeling the membrane off. Very, very pleasant. Now we'll have a look at the Alizza, which is one I have had before, but I haven't had the Onix before. And just for a comparison, this is the Alizza fruit, and here's a regular pink grapefruit. So you can see in this case the Alizza is actually a little bit bigger than the grapefruit. This isn't a particularly large grapefruit, but nevertheless the Alizza is quite a good size. So what I thought I might do is I'm not sure whether to try and peel it for you to see if it peels, or actually just cut it in half like I would a grapefruit. I think perhaps what I'll do is just see if I can take let's see if I can get through the skin a little bit, see what sort of thickness the skin is, see if it is peelable. Not too thick. And it's kind of like a very thin-skinned pomelo. Again, it's a bit like a grapefruit. If you were to peel your grapefruit, obviously I normally eat my grapefruit just by cutting them in half and spooning out the flesh. But let's see if I can actually dropping bits and pieces. See if I can actually peel it, and if I can segment it for you. I could have just cut it straight across, but I didn't kind of want to use the whole fruit in one go, because I'll probably have some tomorrow or perhaps for breakfast. Now you can see this has that, I can't remember the term for it, but that thicker white pith on the outside than you would get on an orange. But it's perhaps not quite as thick as you might expect on a grapefruit. So let's just see, and obviously nowhere near as thick as a pomelo. Right, so let's just see if we just segment this off. Let me try one of these segments and see what this is like. Very pleasant. See if I can cut a segment in half so you can see the coloration. Now it looks like, to my mind, a very pale clementine. It's not pink or reddish like the pink grapefruits, but it looks to me like it looks very similar to a very large, very pale orange, and you can taste There's definitely a clementine flavour in it. More so clementine-y than pomelo. So it's an interesting mix. It's a fascinating fruit. It's worth trying once. I mean, I don't know, and they've come down a little bit in price. I think it was £1 something, and when I first got them, 3 or 4 years ago, I've got a feeling it was over £2. It's actually a little bit cheaper, perhaps because they're producing more of them now. I haven't seen the plants on offer anywhere, but no doubt, well, certainly not the UK, but no doubt some of the citrus specialists in Europe might be able to supply the plants. The name is trademarked, but whether or not that means that the fruits as yet, the plants have not been licensed for selling elsewhere, I don't know. But I thought that would interest people anyway. So that's the Alizza. Thanks very much for watching. I'm going to eat a few more segments of that, and then I'm going to save the other half and probably have it for breakfast. But please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel, share the video if you think anybody would be interested in those unusual citruses, and please do remember to click on the bell if you'd like to know when new videos come out. I will catch up with you all soon. Brett out for now.